Yeah,
I'm gonna say recording. Do you see the recording on your screen?
I do.
All right, cool. Hold on 1 second. So I'll start off with some notes. Quick introduction. 3 second silence. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Real Talk Podcast. This pod is sponsored by nobody, and we're totally commercial free to date. So feel free to listen in from the beginning to the end without any interruptions. I do have to say I am appreciative of the over 3,200 streams that we've had to date over my course of 47 episodes. There's never enough time to record these, but to just take my word for it, I will be doing these as much as I can to the best of my ability, as long as the time allows. And potting is obviously one of the more exciting corners of my business, and we'll do our best to bring in more exciting guests into the future. Today, I have the pleasure of bringing in my friend and colleague James Petrie. James and I met at a downtown club. These stories in New York City always happen at. We met at a random downtown club. This wasn't a random club, but it was at a club later in the night, perhaps. I believe about 6 or 7 years ago. So good memories. It's a club that I believe Ori owned at the time. It's called Gold Bar. In any event, fast track to today, I wanted to share with you all James's path to success, where he is now, where he was in the past, and where he's going in the future. James and his family are the founding agents of Compass in the Hamptons, and they played an integral role in building our presence out in Long Island. Through James and his family, we've become a top brokerage in the Hamptons in less than 5 years. His experience transacting at all price points from Southampton and Montauk basically built a business reputation that has helped us grow a key role in some of the biggest deals in the coveted areas of the Hamptons. James earned a degree in environmental studies and with a focus on sustainable design from the University of Colorado. Go Colorado. We talk about Colorado a lot on this podcast. Speaking of Colorado, I have another episode. My next episode is about Vail, Colorado, but that's for another time. But James, before returning to the Hamptons to build his real estate career and resume and his life in East Hampton, he became a avid sportsman in the areas of surfing, snowboarding. He was also a lifeguard, and fishing and biking and whatnot. You'll find all of his information in his social media, which I'll plug in a moment. When James is not guiding clients through the home buying and selling process, he can be found enjoying the world-class breaks on the East End. James and I have snowboarded together in the mountains of Aspen, Colorado. You could also, his hobbies also include feeding and herding his chickens in his yard. You may follow James's personal Instagram at Grinded Peach, GRINDD Peach, like the fruit, Grinded Peach, and his real estate Instagram at Petrie Team, PETRIE Team, and his website, petrieteam.com. I'll plug all of his social media and his website in the show notes to make sure that you could get in touch with him when needed. So, James, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Top. Thanks
How
for
you
the
doing,
intro.
man?
It was flattering.
Listen, you're so young, yet you have lived such a full life thus far.
Thank you.
Anyways, no, thanks for coming on. Really, it's always fun getting a friend on the podcast because it's more free flowing, it's open, it makes it's less pressure on me, obviously, and having friends / colleagues on board is definitely a part of the growth of this Real Talk Pod platform. So let's go back. Let's go back to the beginning. What do people don't know about you, who you are as a person, and before you're a broker as an individual?
Well, it's funny. A lot of when you grew up in East Hampton, or when people ask you where you grew up and you say East Hampton, they sort of scratch their head like they didn't know people actually lived here in the winter or grew up here.
Yeah, people live here full time.
Yeah. I mean, now it's becoming a trend, but
Yeah.
I think growing up here, just in the complete solitude of how quiet this place gets, kind of shapes you to be a little bit more connected to nature, even though we're so
Sure.
close to the city.
Hmm.
And that's where a lot of our buyers are coming from. So I think having that background, um, really enjoying the woods, really enjoying the ocean is maybe something that people don't know about me right off the bat.
Yeah, you're more of an outdoorsman than what people may assume, since you live in Long Island, but you're actually in the Hamptons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Cool. Well, listen, we're gonna go into the Hamptons a little bit more, but let's just do a couple quick hitters, huh? Just to
yeah.
warm it up. Uh, for visitors, what's for dinner in the Hamptons?
From a restaurant perspective,
Yeah. Yeah.
I like to go to Serafina. It's actually right
Serafina.
around. Yeah, it's right around. I mean, I know it's a big hotspot in the city, but
Yeah. It is.
one of my friends actually franchised it. He used to work at the most popular one in the city. I think it was in the 50s. And he came out here, franchised it, had a really tough go at it right when COVID started, but they ended up having like their best year. And he's just a great guy. He's great when all of our friends come in. He always makes room for us. So I think there is probably my favorite spot. And if I'm going to go from East Hampton to Amagansett to Montauk, the Indian Wells Tavern just renovated and their food is great. And then out in Montauk, I like to go to Inlet Seafood, which is off of East Lake. Just drop dead gorgeous sunsets. Really good fish and
Local,
sushi.
low carbon footprint in that restaurant. All
Yeah.
locally sourced fish.
Yeah, no, the
Yeah.
owners of those, the owner of Inlet are all like old school local fishermen guys who
Yeah, it's really cool.
yeah, love that place.
Uh, it, how long has that Serafina in East Hampton's been around for? I've been there a few years ago.
So it wasn't it probably been there for 4 years and franchised for two.
Oh, got it. Okay, so it just basically got franchised after it moved to the Hamptons.
Yeah,
Got
yeah.
it. Got it.
But that's on North Main. You know, it's not really in the main strip of East Hampton Village. It's right across the street from the
Mhm.
grill. It's
Yeah, it
got a really
is. Yeah.
good like outdoor vibe.
Hmm. Really cool outdoor patio there. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's like one of the coolest restaurants around.
All right. Good. Well, if you have a hard time getting a reservation, hit up James. Maybe he can help you out.
Yep.
Favorite activity during your free time? I mean, we talked about this
I mean,
already,
yeah,
but
the
go
list the
ahead.
list could go on and on, but recently, me and my friends have gotten like really into mountain biking, and it's nice
Yes.
because you could go for like a 30-minute ride, really get a great workout, and it didn't take up half your day, or so you can go at the end of the day, get a really good workout in. You can go right when you wake up. It's a good hobby to have that doesn't affect your work
There are
schedule
mountains in
as
the
much as
Hamptons.
it's hilly. I wouldn't
I
call it
know it's
mountains,
hilly.
but
Yeah, yeah, definitely
uh,
hilly.
yeah, definitely more considered trail riding than like mountain biking. But again, you see some of the most beautiful areas because you get deep back into these preserves overlooking the bay. And if you weren't a trail walker, you'd never get to go back there and experience it.
Uh-huh.
So
Okay.
just
Cool.
by mountain biking more, I've seen parts of the Hamptons that like I grew up here and I'd never seen.
Yeah, yeah, it's a different part. Yeah.
Yeah.
Riding a bike is definitely underrated. I completely agree with you. Even myself, I bike everywhere in Manhattan. And as soon as I started biking, I would say to myself, oh, wait, I would never see these streets back to back to back in such a short time without having to
Yep.
worry about parking a car.
Yeah, I started road biking last year too.
Oh, nice.
And if
Yeah.
I have a pretty clear schedule, or if I know my showings are in the afternoon, I will 100% bike into the office.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
What's the route that everybody does between Montauk and the East Hampton? There's a bike route, right? It's basically just that straightaway.
Yeah, I mean the stretch is, I think it's
Yeah,
15 miles.
15 miles. Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Um,
Uh, Big cycling scene out there.
Big cycling scene, and even just, I mean, that's I guess people like to do that because you could say you've done it, but there's so many great roads to bike back here,
Hmm.
especially when you get
Hmm.
up towards the bay. It gets a little less crowded with cars, and yeah, it's just beautiful.
Okay. I follow your Instagram a lot, and you're always out there doing a lot. Our friends that represent markets I'm so envious of our friends that represent markets in places like Aspen and the Hamptons. You guys are always fishing, biking, surfing, skateboarding. It's like it's
You have to stay
heaven for
busy.
yeah. You guys are wakeboarding, jet skiing. I mean, what do you guys in the Hamptons? What can you not do? I guess growing up as a kid, it's pretty much outdoor heaven.
Yeah, I mean, we just don't have skiing. Skiing and
Yeah,
mountain life
yeah.
is just like not out here, but anything water
Mountain biking,
related.
but yeah, anything mountain. Yeah, exactly. You
I
guys
mean, you
caught a
touched
lot
on it.
of rock bass out off the coast of Montauk last year. I saw that. I remember seeing that video. I was pretty jealous of that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, striped
how,
bass.
how's the how's the fishing scene there? And you eat a lot of fish.
I mean, it's good. Half the guys I grew up with out in Montauk are commercial fishermen, and so if you want fish, you just gotta make a couple calls. And other than that, yeah,
Awesome.
we try to go. I mean, I surf off. I surf cast quite a bit, which is just right off the
Surfcast.
ocean, and that's
Okay.
more late August, September when the bass are running south. But we try
Hmm.
to do one or two charter trips a year, which is you hire one of the guys who works out in Montauk. They take you
One
out
of
for
your boys.
yeah, or like one of my boys' dads who's been doing
Hmm.
it forever.
Hmm.
Usually one of my friends is like the first mate, so they're always happy to when we're going out. And yeah, you spend either a half day or a full day. They take you out to the rips, or they take you a little further out, and you go for bass. If you're not hitting the bass, you go for something else. If it's blackfish season, or
Yeah,
it's good. It's just a good variety, and it's
that's cool.
such a fun day.
That's cool. So if any of your listeners are looking to do a fishing trip, maybe hit up James and he can help you out with the
Yep.
right party. Okay. One secret tip that locals don't always give to visitors. I mean, as you know, in the Hamptons, it is a lot of what we see in the Hamptons is the second home market, just like Aspen and Vale. What get a lot of visitors. So, what are some of the tips that maybe locals are maybe not sharing as much to
I
visitors?
was thinking about this question. It's not an easy question. The first thing that came to my mind was areas like the Springs or deep up in Northwest that
Hmm.
have like drop dead gorgeous sunsets on really uncrowded bay beaches. But
Oh, on the Bay side. Okay.
on the
Yeah.
Bayside, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the restaurants in the Springs sort of get overlooked as well. And they're some of the coolest restaurants. They're all sort of on 3 Mile Harbor. You could take your boat right up to them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just like the sunsets there are great. I mean, everyone goes to Montauk for these sunsets, but I think Springs might
Navy
be
Beach.
on par. Yeah, like Navy Beach,
Right.
and then
Okay. All right. That's a good one.
yeah, and I think just trying to get away from the main beaches, like
Hmm.
getting away from the crowds is easier than you think it is if you know where to go out here.
Gotcha.
You can
Gotcha.
find yourself on a completely desolate beach on Labor Day weekend if you know what road
Tried.
to go down and
And,
stuff.
and,
Yeah.
and this is not, we're not talking, you have to own the $20 million frontage
No, you just got to
off,
know where to
off the,
park, or you got to have the right permits. Just know where
gotcha.
to drive, and you could find some pretty quiet spots.
Okay. Cool. Favorite bar in East Hampton?
Best Pizza has become one of my favorite spots.
Oh, best pizza.
Yeah,
And do they have the
it's
best pizza?
they have pretty good pizza. Yeah, I'd put them in the top three out here.
Okay.
But it's
Okay.
funny. It was a location on Montauk stretch between Amagansett and Montauk. You know where Cyril's used to be.
Yep.
So
Hmm.
it's like in
Sure.
that zone, but it was a restaurant that had failed over and over again. And Best Pizza went in, and I don't know, they kind of did a lot of the right things, and they made it through the first year. And now they're sort of on a roll, and they sort of took over. They took over the sports scene. They have like tons of TVs in there. It's a lot of open air. So in the summer, there's like a great breeze.
Is it
A lot of
all,
space.
is it located off Montauk Highway?
Yep, it's right off
Uh,
the stretch where like
yep.
lunch, the clam
Yep.
bar.
It's
Now
right
it's
before the
like Best
Seacrest.
Pizza,
Yeah. Hmm.
and yeah, I think it was a couple local guys that partnered up with the best pizza guys in Brooklyn, and
Ah.
it's just been doing well. It's a great place to go grab a slice, Great place to watch any sporting events. They have surf movies playing the whole day. So
I would probably rather go there than Gurney's if I'm heading that way.
yeah, exactly.
Nice. All right. Well noted. Thank you. That's actually educational for me. And
Yeah.
I'm sure all my buddies that are listening to this would probably do that next time.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Quick hitters. Oh, let's do another. Let's do maybe two more. Your favorite. So Aspen has Food and Wine. Vail has GoPro games, and every market has an event or two every year that everybody likes to rave about. So for you, what's the favorite event in the Hamptons?
I don't
Just a
want to
local.
just say the Hampton Classic because I've gone a couple times and it's fun, but
Yeah.
I don't know. There's this triathlon I did last year. It's in Montauk that I thought
Okay.
was a great event. It started at Navy Beach. You swam, you jumped on your
Ooh.
bike.
Wow.
It was like a 3 or 5K bike. I can't remember. And then you end
Uh-huh.
up running through the trail system out to the point. And then there's like a little event out at the point. And it's not
Okay.
like you're trying to win it. You sign up with a couple of your friends and you just try to get through it. I thought that was sort of a great event to break up the summer and keep yourself
Are you
motivated and stay in
swimming?
shape.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Are you
Yeah.
swimming out, like out from Navy Beach, like into the ocean and then circling back, or are you swimming and then swimming to another destination?
Yeah, you kind of swim. You go out like a quarter mile and then swim. I guess it's east
Yeah.
to a different location where you you throw on your bike and
Get your
stuff.
bike, and
Yeah,
then you go south.
yeah. And then I had one other one.
That's really cool, huh?
And then depending on like how they're doing the fireworks, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's been hit or miss. But if you could get on a boat and watch the fireworks, the 4th of July fireworks, that's always great. It's
What
always a
the
great.
where did the fireworks usually happen?
Sometimes they happen at 3 Mile Harbor. Sometimes they happen at Main Beach on the ocean side.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
those are that's just like a change of pace, kind of like a
Great.
fun midsummer
Great.
thing.
Final round, quick hitter. What's up with you and the chickens? Tell us about the chickens. Why are they? What is your interest in them? And you have a bunch.
Yeah, I started raising chickens, I think like 5 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Just as I've always sort of had a green thumb, always had a veggie garden going.
Yeah.
Couldn't commit to a dog for some reason, even though I grew up with dogs. And I just tried out chickens. And this is my third go around. I've had to make a lot of upgrades and changes to what I think the coop design should be, but I think I finally nailed it. Where they're
Mhm.
comfortable, I could get in and out easily, and there's nothing like fresh eggs in the morning. That's for sure.
Oh, that for sure, for sure.
And they,
How
they
many
kind of
chickens do
have
you
some
have?
personality.
Oh yeah, they recognize their names, right?
Yeah, maybe not their names, but if I like clap at them or run over to their coop, yeah, they're gonna follow me over there.
Oh,
Um,
great.
I have four now, and I'm looking.
And they
I'm sort of in the market for two more.
okay. What's the evolution of a chicken like?
They could live like I think over 10 years.
Okay.
They just start slowly laying less and less eggs.
Uh-huh.
But there's
Uh-huh.
a lot of predators out here, so if they make it to 10, they were either really lucky
Had a
or
good
have
life.
like a lot of protection.
Talk about the predators. What are we talking about? Foxes,
Yeah,
mountain,
foxes,
bobcats,
raccoons, not bobcats, but raccoons.
dogs.
If they're in the open, a hawk will just take them right out of the sky.
Mm,
Um, Dogs, cats.
God. Okay. Yeah,
Those two, they're
cats.
at the bottom of
Cats.
the food chain.
Yeah, they are. They also eat ticks though, right?
Yeah, yeah. When I
I
lived,
mean,
when I lived,
I heard that was the big chicken boom was happening because on the East Coast, at least, there has been an issue with ticks all throughout the coastline from where I'm from down by the Chesapeake Bay all the way up to the northeast coast of Maine. There's just ticks all over the place. So
yeah,
that's why I guess some people have chickens too in their front yard.
definitely. I don't live in a particularly ticky area now. I live sort of closer to
Hmm.
the village, but when I used to live further into Northwest, I just let them roam, and I never had any ticks on me. Chickens and guinea hens are really good for that kind of stuff.
Okay, look at James the Green Thumb educating us on the what's becoming now a nature podcast,
Yeah, I
nature
actually
and
I
outdoor
actually had two
podcast.
ducks last year too, but they were
Ducks, what
kicking.
happened to them?
They're just like really hard to take care of. They need fresh water. They need like a body of water, and they just
Uh-huh.
get it so dirty that
Yeah,
you end up having to like fill and empty this huge thing of water every day, and it got a little too much. The chickens
would
are
you
really
just
easy.
release them into the wild?
I actually just threw him back over my friend's fence who gave him me without even telling him because he had so many. He would have been mad if I did that. And I was like, you know what? Sorry,
But he
man.
would have not known.
Yeah, he
Maybe he
didn't
wouldn't
even
have known.
realize it for like weeks. I
That's
finally had to come
amazing.
clean, but yeah, the ducks.
Sometimes you got to let go of the ones that you love.
Yeah,
Um, let's switch gears and pivot into some more deeper questions now, just about you and your business. But um, let's talk about your sales team. You have a family-run business. You also have Charlie,
yep,
who I hung out with a lot actually out in LA a few years back. But just tell me about like what you guys do, how you got in the business, and
yeah,
your team.
yeah. Of course. So yeah, I mean, you touched on it. It's my dad who's been in the business for over 30 odd years, like 32, I think it is now.
Hmm.
I started working with him when I was still in college, and just I think growing up, listening to him talk and just watching him work, I always had sort of a real estate mind, and even
Yep.
in college, I kind of realized I was going to give it a shot, not knowing that I would really love it and continue doing it. But
Hmm.
so it's me, my dad, and Charlie Forsman, my stepbrother, who joined us about 2 years ago. And Charlie's stepmom sometimes helps when like some design stuff has to come into play, or if a property we're working on needs to be staged, stuff like that. But yeah, it's really me and Charlie, boots on the ground, doing all the sort of background work. And for the stuff that Ed's working on, that's sort of more high end. He does most of the showings. But in the last 5 years, I mean, Charlie and I have grown our business tremendously, and there's sort of two businesses within one,
Hmm.
which I think is pretty interesting.
Interesting. Your dad. You grew up watching your dad broker deals. This is
Yeah,
pre-internet, probably pre when internet was kind of more. It was there, but it probably wasn't as established as what it was today. I
yeah,
mean, well, you just saw him on the phone on his brick cell phone or
yeah.
uh,
Well, you know,
landlines, and
he'd carry me around like a football in the office. So I was like sort of always in the office, driving around. Yeah, you'd hear him on the old Nokia phones before, like I'd be playing Snake, and then he'd have to talk to somebody. So just secondarily hearing all the negotiation talks, or just how to deal with people, I think gave me a leg up, and just how to start talking to people in this business, and how to treat your clients, and grateful for that.
how to be basically on 24/7, 7 days a week, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
The,
that part is
I think
harder to get used to, but
really cool fact is I didn't know who you guys were until I think the first week you guys signed on the Compass. You guys did like a $90 million land deal, or it was like not even 1 week. It was like 4 days,
yeah, it was actually a
something like
retrade.
that.
It was a retrade of it's two contiguous properties on the ocean in East Hampton.
Oh,
It
I see.
was, it was 100. It was 108 or 109 million. The
Now,
original
when
guy bought
he
it for 95.
109 million, wow. When I'm assuming this is basically him working on this deal for 2-3 years leading up to that day of I guess the signing, but um, it
Yeah, and
just
both of
like
those
any other real,
guys
right?
have been his clients since I don't know
Day
the,
one.
the 80s. Like he's seen them
Right.
amass their wealth and now move on to bigger properties. So um, that you can almost consider those deals being like 20 years in the making.
Interesting. Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah,
You know, what we know is what was put on the map when it was signed, but I knew there was obviously like any deal of that magnitude, there's usually a story that is behind it that goes back many years. I didn't know it went back to the 80s, but yes, I mean certainly makes sense.
Yep.
The I guess the birth of you guys coming into Compass. I mean, you guys were independent. Were you guys independent beforehand,
No,
or
we were at Sotheby's, and
okay?
so I was at Sotheby's for a couple of years, and my dad
Mhm.
was there for about 10. And before
Got
that,
it.
he had his own brokerage called Dudemere and Associates that they
Okay.
sold off, and then he moved to Sotheby's.
What did you think when you first heard that, maybe we should join a company that's still relatively unknown, or actually, in fact, totally unknown in
Yeah.
Hamptons at the time?
Well, I was still pretty new. I think I was 2 years in. So
Mhm.
I was all for it. I was like, let's take the risk. Let's make the jump. Um, Everyone that we were talking to seemed to be positive and had great ideas in a industry that felt like it was getting stagnant.
Sure.
Between, I don't know, a lot of the major firms, it seemed like they were more geared towards themselves than helping the people that were making the
Sure.
money. So when we
Yeah, it's
spoke to
classic real estate.
Robert, we spoke to the powers that be. We had a couple different dinners, and it just seemed like they were on the right track, and they wanted to help us while helping their company grow. And joining a young company like that is exciting. I think he saw it as a good opportunity for me to grow in a
Mhm.
company like that. Um, I remember during the whole talks, we were supposed to come over with Harold Grant and his son Bruce. So between Ed and Harold, they thought it'd be great for Bruce and I to like make the jump and be sort of the first guys in over there. But unfortunately,
Mhm.
Harold decided to stay with Sotheby's basically the day that we were all supposed to leave.
Mhm.
And I'm actually not sure if we should be talking about that, but
I mean, it's fine. I mean, it's already been done, so it's not
yeah.
it's, it's
Uh,
not it's not breaking news by any means.
no.
Did you think, I guess for your dad's sake, I mean, he's an old school guy, but did you think that this move was going to be a benefit more for you or more for your dad, or was it more of a family decision?
Um, I think we both thought it'd be better for me in the end.
Yeah,
And
you mentioned
now that
that.
we're
Yeah.
5 or 6 years in, it clearly was like more strategic for me.
Hmm. Hmm.
It didn't drastically change his business. His business has
Didn't change
been
his life.
created. Didn't change his life.
Yes.
His business has been mostly on his cell phone. We've handled more of the back end tech stuff.
The
So
tech
we,
stuff, the
we kind of just
CRM stuff.
let
Yeah.
Ed keep doing his thing, and we
Correct.
moved into the space. And like you said, like we met 6 years ago, and we've been at every event since. And I don't think I would have had that same experience if I was still at Sotheby's, meeting the people that I have, and creating the network that that we
100%. I mean,
that
the
we
tech
have.
is great. The tech is great, but what drives revenue for a company is not just the tech, but it's us. And what helps us drive the revenue is knowing people like you, and obviously the Lane Johnsons of Aspen and the Nick Spencens of Santa Barbara and
Yeah, I
whatnot,
mean, just
the network.
name a city, talk, and we can go there and have somewhere to stay.
That's
Pretty much.
right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a pretty cool network for sure. What one or two things you learned from your dad and growing up in a real estate family that would probably help? Let's just do two groups. Help brokers, and then also maybe uh, things that you learned from your family and your dad growing up that would help your clients.
I just think for brokers, you just got to be yourself. I see and hear people try to put on these personas, and I think they're just doing themselves a disservice. If you're gonna have to wear that persona every time you talk to this person, eventually they're gonna see through it. So maybe you're not always dressed the best, but if you can speak honestly with them, share some connections about your story and your life, they'll start trusting you more, and you'll just be more successful with them overall.
Hmm. Okay. And what about for your
And
clients?
and then for my clients, what was the sorry, what was like the
Well, I mean, things that you've learned as growing up in a real estate family from your father. What are some of the things that you learned that are, that could be good for your clients to know?
I always say a bird in hand is a bird in hand. If your clients are sort of maybe first time sellers and there's a deal right in front of them, and they're iffy about taking it, sometimes the first deal is always the best deal.
Right.
And if Ed or myself is saying that, I would just hope that your clients realize that we have their best interest in mind. We're not just trying to get the deal done. Like that's we're trying to make them the most amount of money. So if your clients can trust you enough to listen to your guidance, I think growing up in a real estate family has pushed me to be extremely honest with people.
Yeah,
I just
with
don't
people.
think there's any other way to do it. It's just not gonna lead to anything productive.
That really leads me to an interesting topic. There was a TV show on Netflix last year called Selling. No, it was called, what was it?
Something
$1 Million Beach House.
Yeah,
$1 Million
yeah.
Beach House. And I've only seen maybe 2 episodes of it because my friend was on the show. But
Yep.
I have to say, there was a scene in the beginning where there was a new agent. He was relatively new, and he was like, "How would you like $50 million?" Or do you remember that scene? Or $45 million. It was some astronomical number that I don't know where he got that number from. I think he just pulled it out of his back. I don't know
Yeah.
what it was, but it kind of goes back. And I don't think the house ever sold. I think they signed it. I don't think they ever even became close to being a transaction.
Was it the oceanfront in Amagansett?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was
like a cool modern
the seller
house.
was a cool modern house. The seller was like a lady. I think she was a lady, or maybe Asian descent. I can't quite remember, but you're right. This goes back. This is kind of like broker lesson 101 is from a broker's standpoint as advice. You can't, what the value of the house is, so you won't sell snake oil to your client. It's a waste of everybody's time. But then again, from a client standpoint, you hire somebody that it sells you the dream, but not the reality. Then it goes back to exactly what you said. You shouldn't trust that broker's that sales figure. But it all comes down to hiring the person that knows what they're doing. It all comes down to hiring the best. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, if your pitch is just get the listing and then try to whittle down them on price, it's not a very good way to go about it. You're going to end up not really liking each other. If you go in honestly and say, yeah, it's bad strategy. If you go in and say, listen, I know I'm probably not going to have the highest number here, but this is honestly what we think it's going to trade for, and we're not in this business to just stack listings. So we'd love to represent your property at this level. If it's beyond that, then
there's not much
we're busy enough
we can do to help you. Right. Yeah. We're already busy enough. We don't want to waste your time, and we don't want to inconvenience your life for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
It totally makes sense.
People, even if they can see that higher number, if in the back of their head they know that it might be high, their trust falls back on us. It's like, okay, those guys were being at least honest with me. This other guy's just shooting a pie in the sky number so I can get the signature, and then next week he's going to want a price reduction. So it's.
But don't you think the irony in this business is we get a lot of sellers that want those people?
Yeah.
Right. They want the astronomical number.
They're like, so and so said I can get this, and you kind of have to be like, well, where are they coming up with that? Like, where are they coming up with that number?
Right. But sometimes that strategy works too. I guess it depends on the market too. In an up market like you guys are in right now, maybe sending in that astronomical number, the market will eventually meet that trajectory of that number.
No, I mean the strategy's changed out here for sure, especially like at certain price points. You almost got to reach. You don't want to go into the stratosphere, but you want to reach
high.
You want to reach high because what we're seeing is if there's a lot of volume in the first week or so, it's going to go to a bidding war. So if you really reach, you might miss that 5 or 10 people that would have came if it was well priced or maybe just a little overpriced. And that's where you're seeing the quick over ask transactions of stuff that's priced well, tons of volume in the first week, and like multiple bids that forces a sealed bid.
Mm-hmm. What did you think about that show on Netflix that was produced last year? You could be honest.
You know what? My girlfriend liked watching it, so I was sort of watching it with her, but I don't know if any of those houses traded. And then if I did see them trade, it was with other brokers. So I think there's like a big facade that they throw on just to get the film crew in, and then they're
It was
done.
great marketing for those homes, wasn't it?
Oh yeah,
So
it was
for
fantastic.
the sellers, it was a no-brainer to get those, those people in, assuming that there was no wear and tear in the house.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I
here's
where
here's
the
a good story for you. So I had a
go ahead.
developer who was working with me. I basically had a deal done for him, and he said Netflix is going to pick us up to do a renovation for this house.
Oh,
So we're going to get, you're going to sell us the house. Then Netflix is going to pick us up, film us, with those brokers renovating it. And then after the show's done, you got to sell it for me. I'm like, okay, so I'm doing the first deal. They get to film there, and then I'm going to do the second deal. I'm like, yeah, sure. Sounds good.
so
Unfortunately, the deal
you're
fell apart.
telling me, oh no, the deal fell apart. You're telling me that the sellers brought in fake listing agents to film the show, but then after the show was over, you were able to come back in.
That's what they were telling me. Yeah, they were like, listen,
Huh.
it's a great opportunity for us to team up with Netflix to do this, but we're relying on your guidance to buy this house and then eventually sell it. I was like, sure, sounds
Amazing.
great.
That's amazing. Well, yeah, why not? Yeah,
Unfortunately,
there's always these reality TV shows in our real estate industry, I think, have really affected how people think about the industry, whether it's people like us or buyers or sellers, or I guess people that also want to join the industry, right? There's a
yeah,
lot of facade in the front, and nobody really knows what's actually happening in the back. And that includes what? What do you think? Commissions? I'm sure the type of talk, like people don't talk like that in our industry, or people don't go to separate rooms and talk amongst each other and then come back in and talk in the same conference room. I mean, what do you think about
yeah.
that? I think the whole TV perception has changed the dynamic of real estate. Don't you think?
I think there's just so much more that goes into being able to do a lot of deals in one year. It's not like your work, like for them, they're in that show. They're like, I have to focus on this one property. It's like my nest egg. When in reality, you should be thinking about that house. You should be thinking of who wants to buy it. You should be thinking about who their friends are, and start making calls. And then naturally, it'll all come together. Hopefully, that's what I mean. My dad always said he'd wake up at 4 a.m. with his notepad on his desk, and he'd come up with a great idea about who should buy this and trade into that. And he'd scribble it down before he forgot it. So like some of his best ideas were middle of the night. I
Very
think
cool.
that section of real estate that is really hard to capture. Like
It's
your
very
head
boring
just
on TV,
churning.
but yeah,
Yeah, your mind just churning about like, especially us. It's so hyper focused with East Hampton South or just the areas that we focus on in general that
right.
we know who the players are. We know what they're looking for. We know who wants to move where, and it's all about like stringing together that 2 or 3 deal cycle
So
that is what drives me. I think.
so leading up to that, thus far in your career, what are you most proud of in terms of accomplishments?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I've done one oceanfront deal that I took me about 3 years to do. It was actually it
Uh-huh.
was a referral from Compass,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I mean every part of it was a challenge, and it was a learning experience, and it was to date my highest sale.
Do you
But
want to
then I
disclose the sales
also
price?
I was 20,500,000,
Wow. Wow,
and
that extra 500,000 too. That's
yeah,
amazing.
is asking at like 24.5, and we got him down to
Uh-huh.
or like around 20, which was great. And their
Good for you.
buyers are, couldn't be more thrilled with how it ended up.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think about the other side of it is selling I wouldn't say lower end, but the first time home buyers who got in 2 years ago and have now sent me 3 or 4 referrals, and they're asking me to come play golf or creating friendships with people. That's like a whole nother thing I'm really proud of, is creating like networks of friends that I'll probably have for the next 20 years because I first sold them a house and whatever, we bonded, we became friends. They introduced me to their
How fun is
friends.
that?
Yeah,
Right.
and then
Yeah,
and then all of a
exactly.
sudden you have, maybe your local friends, and you have like your client friends, and then they meet, and it's just your network of influence grows.
It just keeps on growing. As long as you keep doing the right thing, it'll keep growing. Yeah, that's really awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, how fun does it sound to be able to sell your clients a home, but then also go play golf with them right afterwards?
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, yeah, no, that's great. What are you working on now? Do you have any projects? Oh, I have a question. Didn't you list, or you guys list a home that was featured in the show? Was it Succession or Billions or one of those? It was used as a set. No,
No, I don't think so.
no, there was a movie. It was like a movie or TV show.
Okay, well, there was a property that sold that has been in a couple movies. It
That's
was
right.
it was in Wainscott. It's actually named Killcare, but that traded. And then I mean, yeah, that's the only one.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think it was that one that we were
And,
talking
and
about.
that one's been like on the cover of Hamptons. It's like one of the most like
Yes.
iconic
Yes.
houses in East Hampton, and
It
I'm,
did
I'm
trade. Yeah, that's
thrilled
right.
that it traded to somebody who wasn't going to knock it down, because that was sort
Really?
of
Oh.
where we ended up after not
Uh
selling
huh.
for a year and a half. We were like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
someone's going to just want to basically pay land value, knock this thing down, and
Oh my
luckily
goodness.
that didn't happen. We would have
Good. Oh, good.
lost
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
icon
That.
to us.
Yeah. That would have been a bummer. Yeah. Um. So in terms of currently, what's in the works? I know the market's
Yeah,
very difficult. COVID happened. There's a lot of, I guess, the accidental benefactors of COVID are secondary home markets like you guys, where people want more space. They want to be by the ocean. They want to be outdoors. Again, markets like Vail, markets like Aspen. Those are the benefactors. I mean, I know I tried looking for a house for a month in Bozeman, Montana, earlier this year for snowboard season, and the prices were astronomical. I mean, the secondary home markets are on fire. I mean, what's going on in the Hamptons right now? What happened last year? What happened this year?
yeah. I mean, it's funny. Any builder that was getting to the finish line around COVID, or even into the back end of 2020, or even into 2021, and they were coming out with a fresh product, they did amazing. They
Hmm.
sold like immediately. There's a lot of pre-construction stuff selling, just because there's nothing really on the market, and anything, call it under 3 million, that was move-in ready, had multiple bids.
Hmm.
I remember at the beginning of 2020, I mean, we had some listings for 4 or 5 years that finally sold. So we got rid of some of
It's
that
amazing.
very old school inventory that was nice.
Yeah.
Maybe it just was a little bit quirky, or it needed some work, but
Work.
yeah, like there was a whole changeover of sort of old inventory that finally ended up selling, which was nice. And
Good.
then in the works, we have a lot of nice big vacant pieces of land, and probably like the best section of East Hampton that are starting to come on the market, and they're within one family, and they're right next to each other. So that's really our focus right now, is getting
And
those.
are they zoned residential? Is it a
Yeah,
commercial? Is it mixed?
nope, it's just single residential,
Hmm.
single family
So you
home
could build.
residential.
What is it like out there in the Hamptons? I mean, how many are there restrictions on basements? How many floors you can build? I'm sure there are, but
Yeah. I mean, there's height restrictions. There's square footage restrictions depending on your lot size. There's not really like style restrictions. Like the HOAs and stuff don't have much of that.
okay. So you could build a
Yeah,
glass house, or you could build
yeah. You
a
could build
mountain
a
village cottage looking home, or you could build a traditional.
Yeah, exactly. But
What
I
what's the
think people.
minimum price for someone to do that, right? If you wanted to buy a piece of land, um, and then go through all the permits and the zoning, the construction. I mean, what's the kind of the starting budget for something like that?
You can pick off a piece of land here. I'm talking more specifically East Hampton.
Hmm.
It's really hard to do now, but there are still pieces of property that are probably valued around 300 to 500, and and then call it 500 a foot to build. 500 can
3 to
turn.
500,000.
Yeah.
Okay, is that like an acre? What are we looking at size
No,
wise?
that's probably like 0.5 or 0.25.
Is it near the water, or is it? I guess you could
That would be
drive to the water.
generally in springs. I mean, if you're
Mhm.
looking for like a really nice building lot, you're gonna have to pay between like $1 million and $2 million
Okay.
for an acre plus,
Okay.
in more of a coveted area, things like that. And then sky's
And
the
then,
limit. Sky's the limit.
right,
Sky's
of
the
course,
limit
yeah.
beyond that.
Yeah, you can spend $50 million on a piece of oceanfront property, right?
Yeah.
Could you tell me though? You said to go into that for me. $500 a buildable square foot. So what does that actually entail? Explain to this like you're explained it to a first time home builder.
Yeah, so that's like your all-in cost. That's landscaping, that's hardscaping, that's first 2 floors is generally in the 500 a foot, and then if you want to do a finished basement, it's about half. It's about 250 a foot, and that's just your starting costs. If you just listened to the builder's advice and did everything he said, he'd probably could do it for that. But as soon as you start making custom changes and change orders and architectural changes and stuff, it starts getting a little bit more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
anywhere
for
between like 500 and 1,000 a foot would be like realistic out for building not extremely luxury high end out here with like a really well-known designer and architect. That's where it gets really expensive.
So let's just say a modest house. I don't know, 3,000 square foot interior, 2 floors, 1,500 a foot. First, no basement, just ground and second floor. That would be $1.5 million.
Yeah.
Plus, I guess the land cost. So, how would you build in the how would you build in the outside? The land, it's in hardscape and landscaping. How
Hardscaping
does
and
that work?
landscaping. That's generally included in that 500 a square.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So all in, you could build a brand new house on a modest piece of land for about $2 million.
Yeah. Or less. I mean,
Or less.
it
Because the
depends on
1.5 is.
how involved a designer and an architect get.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you work with a
And
builder
then
that you trust to design the house, that cuts the cost.
I think some listeners may be interested in this. Is so let's just say $2 million all in. In a time like this, if you were to rent this house out for the summer, how much would you be able to get?
The rental prices out here are crazy right now. I mean, I just
Yes,
sold
I
a house
know.
for
So let's discuss this.
I sold a house for 128, and it's in Amagansett. It's in a nice area. It's close to the bay. It's a salt box, 4 beds, 3 baths, and they painted the exterior, kind of cleaned up some of the landscaping, and we're asking 45 for July and 47 for June, or sorry, for August, and we have a full ask July offer.
Full ask July offer for 45,000.
Yeah.
Now,
So
give me a low ball, modest estimate of what you would get on the other months about.
So June is typically half of July. That's just ballpark what I would say. So like 20-ish, 22.5 or something like that.
Okay.
Again, 45 for July, 47-ish for August, because they're about the same amount of weekends this year. And then September is really nice now too. It's probably more in that June category, 25.
10 grand, maybe?
No, like
20,
20,
it would
25-ish. And then October will drop off to, like call it.
All right, so
all the winter months, if you have a halfway decent house now, you're starting to ask 10,000 a month, and you're maybe settling at 5 or 6, but the asking prices are strangely across the board at 10,000.
Let's just say modestly 7 grand or 5 grand for December, January, February. Right? Would that be modest? 5 grand per month? So that's plus 15 grand. So you just rattled off those numbers, and I did the math here. We're looking at $154,000 in gross revenue, which for a $1.2 million home, right? Which means that's a cap rate of 13%, gross cap rate of 13.3%. For those buyers that are looking and they have the budget to do so, it almost makes no sense to put your money in a checking account
I know.
at a 13% return. It makes no sense to put your money in the stock market at an S&P average growth of 6%.
I did a deal right before COVID for insurance for 1245 or something, and he immediately got 40,000 for July, 45,000 for August, and I've gotten him those. And then he does these like winter rentals. I can't remember the exact numbers, but he makes out like a bandit. And every year I've hit those numbers for the past 2 years. He just gets his
Okay.
house rented, and he sometimes uses it in June. But for him, it's been like such a good investment.
If you're listening to this, you just heard the best piece of nugget on the Real Talk podcast is how much wealth you can potentially build in the Hamptons because the rental market is just crazy. Tell me what you helped out my buddy who had a budget of 60 grand between the months of, I believe, Memorial Day and Labor Day, and there was nothing by the water. I mean, why is it so crazy?
And he does have a charger, computer charger.